Superdash, not to be confused with a Superdash, is one of the many variants in Celeste, and it allows you to dash really far and lets you turn mid-air. Last time I mentioned it in my channel, I beat the 9 A-sides of the game, including Farewell, but this time I'm gonna get 100%. You probably know what this means: all red berries, all crystal hearts, B-sides, C-sides, and the moonberry. I also tried to do Pico-8, but the variant actually doesn't affect it, and no mod just adds it to Pico-8. Instead, I downloaded a Pico-8 remake in the main game. We'll see how that goes when we get there. First of all, let's replay each level and get the collectibles. The crystal heart in Forsaken City doesn't actually change much, since the dash directions remain the same. Since it's the first chapter, the red berries were obviously really easy. Except for this one, it trolled me. The cassette tape is even easier, we can just cheese it entirely. Old side doesn't complicate things either. The crystal heart is of course really easy, the cassette tape is freer than America, and the red berries are all really simple and straightforward. Of course, it was obvious that everything in the first two levels was gonna be easy, so let's go into Celestial Resort. At the start of it, Superdash allowed me to do some really cool stuff like this, and getting this strawberry in the way. There isn't anything worth mentioning up until the Pico-8, and as you already know, I installed a mod that recreates it. The first screen was certainly weird. In the original Pico-8, you can get from this ledge to this other one, and that is not an option here. Yeah, this map was really scuffed. I tried to do it without climbing or neutral jumps, since the original Celeste Classic doesn't have those, but it soon became impossible. The whole mod itself was really weird, since many of the stuff in Celeste Classic doesn't have a total replacement. Some berries were precise, I guess, and I did actually grab all of them this time around, so don't you dare tell me I missed any. I did do some sick skips here and there, and they also added wall bounces for some reason, but it was pretty easy overall. Or that's what I would say if I hadn't found something. At the end, I was goofing around and I just decided to skip the flag. And I actually could, and this led me to find a key. Now, I hadn't seen a place to use a key, but I figured I'd go back. Now, going backwards was really easy, you basically just drop down half the level. When I got to the beginning, there was nothing. Except if you run into this wall, then there's the spot to use the key with the cassette tape and crystal heart. You know what this means? Celeste Classic B-side. I know this isn't in the main game, but this was still fun and pretty hard, so let me quickly mention it. The first room just shows that this is just a harder version of it, since we have to do some dashless jumps. This room took me a while, since I don't actually know what the intended solution was. I just did a corner jump and dashed upwards. Some rooms had cool puzzles, just like this one with a moving platform. To solve it, I wave dashed twice quickly, and on top of the platform, I did a crouch jump to not hit the spikes above. Then they introduce wall bounces once again, and make us do this really precise one. I still had Superdash on while doing this, by the way, and it made this room harder, cause I kept hitting the spikes when entering the bubble. I just had to use the angle of the Superdash gimmick to make it doable. There's also this one, with many tight jumps and a cool skip by utilizing the Superdash. This one took me a while before I realized that you just had to wall bounce. Once we unlocked the second dash, I thought I was going to have to demo here, but that was just me being stupid. Then, the crows gave me some very useful advice here. I forgot how to climb, thanks for teaching me. This screen is actually pretty puzzly. I was doing complicated jumps at first, but since it wasn't enough, I actually used my brain a little bit and managed to solve it. Then we got some feather spam, which, by the way, how has Celeste Classic turned into this? Then there's this room. I actually couldn't manage to go the intended path with Superdash, though I'm pretty certain it's possible. Instead, I went through this little crevice here. Then I was like really clutch. The last hurdle is this strawberry, which requires me to stand on this little edge twice in a row. And now we finally reached the flag. Wait, why isn't it working again? Oh, what is this? Well, this was just Summit Seaside Part 2. It actually wasn't that hard, just some precise movement. The ending was kind of a troll though, I'm glad I got it first try. We finally made it out of Pico-8. That sure was weird. Back in Celestial Resort, we can easily get the crystal heart, the cassette tape, and beat the rest of the level with ease. Let's take a look at Golden Ridge. The cassette tape at the beginning is pretty much unchanged, so that's one less thing to worry about. I easily grabbed all red berries in the intersection and did a cool platform skip. Heck, I didn't even need to do the crouching thing in the platform to get the crystal heart. This berry was giving me some issues, but it wasn't even because of the Superdash. Instead, I just forgot how it was done. But that's it for Golden Ridge, nothing crazy too far, but don't worry, cause this video is long from over. Mirror Temple is the first place in all of our playthrough, except for Farewell,
Rest in peace, my granny, she got hit by a bazooka, yeah.
Where I encountered a problem I didn't know how to solve. Take a look at this berry. You obviously need to get the first red bubble. And then, if you try to dash horizontally, even if you turn, you're going to hit the spinners. I tried different ways of doing this, but to no avail. I actually skipped this one the first time around. Thankfully, it was just a rookie mistake by me, since I didn't try vertical dashes. Of course, this looks like I need a horizontal dash, but by dashing upwards and using your turn at the right time, you can actually cross it and get the berry. Not first try, but eventually I got it done. I grabbed the cassette tape and did a very cool dash to get the crystal heart, and got to the mirror. After this, there aren't any highlights. It's just the scary part of the scary Mirror Temple, and then we grab Theo and get out of there. Reflection is an even easier level to talk about, since it has no red berries at all. The cassette tape is free and the crystal heart was weird. I was doing the combinations right and the torches just didn't line up. I think it's because I turned mid-air and it doesn't count it, but it still confused me back then. I unfortunately did have to beat the entire level again, because this was on a brand new save file, so hooray. Now we're on to Summit, the level with the most amount of strawberries.
What the heck?
Plus 6 crystal heart pieces. In the first section, there's this berry, which I couldn't get to with a dash since I hit the spinners above. I had to do a crouch dash upwards instead. The crystal heart piece was really easy. In 500 meters, nothing interesting. In 1000 meters, I did the turning thing mid-air to clutch this berry. In 1500 meters, we got the cassette tape and it was pretty easy, of course. There's also this strawberry. If I just dash forwards to try to get it the intended way, Madeline is just going to meow into the bunnies. By using the angle and some pause buffering, I could dash right before hitting the spikes, or dust bunnies, and save myself that way. Then I accidentally overshot a berry, so I had to redo the level to get it afterwards, and got to 2000 meters. The crystal heart parts so far have all been a joke, that's why I'm not mentioning them. This, of course, also includes this one. There was just one berry that took me a bit, and it's the one with the moving platforms. It ultimately came down to having the right timings. To save you the time, the rest of 2000 meters and the entirety of 2500 meters had nothing interesting, so let's get on with the final stretch. We grabbed the crystal heart and then we started the climb. All the red berries here are really simple, and since we covered the level itself in the previous video, we can move on and finally cover the last few red berries. There are only 5 in core, so they won't take too long. I tried to get the first one while there was fire and not ice, but even with the Superdash variant, this wasn't possible. So I had to go all the way around. As per the last few berries, they were all brain dead easy, so no problem there. With the red berries out of the way, we can now focus on the thing you all are probably here for, the B-sides. Given what we've already been through, I thought that these weren't gonna be that hard, but let's see for ourselves. Forsaken City starts off pretty easily. There's a tight turn dash at the start of the checkpoint and a few skips here and there, but it being the first B-side was of course gonna be easy. The same can be said about Old-side. The whole level revolves around the dream blocks, which barely have any differences with Superdash at all, so it's no surprise that there's nothing worth mentioning. Celestial Resort brings us back to our cycles. A lot of the beginning rooms get weird because of the cycles, but nothing too crazy. Then we get to the bathroom. This room was really weird to route. our super dash here becomes a big issue. I did a lot of clutch saves in this room, but ultimately ended up dying. The attempt where I did it wasn't anything special, but just a good execution of my strategy. There were also certain rooms in the Ochiro chase that were definitely weird, but this level is already over. Golden Ridge starts pretty well, reminding us about how bubbles affect our super dashes, and giving us a really precise room. There's also this one with wind, where we really have to maneuver around with our turns. The room that also took me a while in the no diagonal dashes video gives me a hard super dash here as well. There's also this bubble room, which gave me a lot of trouble due to this bubble specifically. If I just try going forward or up, I will hit the spinners, and if I try dashing out of the bubble, I can't get to the next one. This left me no choice but to demo through the spinners. Is what I would say if I could do those consistently. Turns out that if you angle it just right, you don't hit the spinners. Then there's this room, with a bubble you have to dash out of. And we finally reached the end of the level. This one was certainly more challenging than the rest so far, but still manageable. I thought the mirror temple wasn't gonna be a big issue. And for the first 2 rooms, it was no big deal. And then we get to the 3rd room. This was a spooky room. It felt like a jump scare. You might be thinking, well, what's the problem? Just dash down. Except you can't. Super Dash takes so long that if you dash down and then jump, the platform would be all the way at the top already, so when you jump, you won't get the momentum from it. If you just dash above it, you won't have a dash for the next platform. You also can't just cross it without a dash. I tried using screen transitioning, but that had no future. I went back to the platform itself, and then noticed that it was only if I dashed down that I would have no time to get the momentum, but I could do wave dashes on it and they would still give me the momentum. This wasn't enough height, but if I did the same with a good super, it would eventually work and would allow me to keep a dash and use it here. I did not get Bob's drop, so I had to do a whole lot of nothing to get to the next part. The room with the moving things was complicated thanks to the narrow spaces and awkward timings. It took me some time and pretty good luck to beat it. The rest of the level remains pretty much unchanged though. I guess Theo was pretty annoying to handle, but isn't he always? Grrr! Reflection B-side is up next, and this is where people usually say difficulty steps up, so let's see if it remains that way with the Super Dash variant. That immediately becomes true, as this bumper room is boing hell. First of all, bouncy guys are inconsistent. I swear they'll just throw you in whatever direction they want, and the Super Dash doesn't help there at all. It just adds more distance. I figured out I could do an up dash to cancel the momentum and squeeze in between the spinners, but it was tough. Plus, for some reason, I just kept failing the ending. After actually beating that one and a few more rooms, we get to the falling section. This is not what we want to see at all, since a lot of the section consists of just chaining dashes all over the place. Just take a look at the very second room. I keep having to move away so that I just don't die with the spinners, or in this room with the feather. A lot of dashes here are really tight. However, the one that definitely takes the winner cake for hardest room thus far is definitely this one. I'm not talking hardest room in this chapter, I'm speaking hardest room in the entire video. First of all, you can either go the intended way or the demo way. The hard part doesn't appear until after that. It begins with a lot of chain dashes and this. I tried my absolute best to avoid hitting any spinners at all with a super dash, but even if I did it as tightly as possible, I could not manage to get it. I thought I was gonna need spinners down here, as I always end up needing, but after looking at the task, it turns out that it isn't actually needed. I tried replicating it, but I couldn't do it myself. We do have proof of it being possible though, so this room is totally doable with Super Dash. Then we meet Battling, and comparing this to what we've already been through would be a joke, since most of the rooms here are normal or even easier. Sure, some places are different, but again, we've seen differences all over the place. We're here for the difficult stuff. That's why we have to cover Pico-8 B-side. At the beginning, we already get teased about the future, and we also get trolled by this spinner. So far, we can tell that this chapter is full of tight dashes, which isn't ideal for me. But first, we have to get through the easy stuff, that being Forsaken City and Old-side. The Celestial Resort section steps up the difficulty, because the cycles here are really annoying to deal with while using the Superdash. But it's not until the Golden Ridge section until we find a really difficult room. And that's all because of an impossible dash in this section. I spent far too long in this section, when the answer was just a good late diagonal dash. This way, instead of bouncing on the spring, I would grab onto the side of the platform. The last room in this section of course has wind and ends in some pretty tight dashes. The Mirror Temple section is certainly interesting. This is because, unlike in the actual Mirror Temple B-side, bubbles are hard to maneuver with, since you must dash out of them. That's why this section had many deaths for me. It not only needed a good puzzle solving strategy, but it also needed a good execution. We can finally reach the other actual hard part in the level. Let's just skip over all of this, and there it is, flag 12. You may have already spotted the problem. This passage is way too tight. That's what she said. The Superdash here was actually really weird though. Sometimes my turn would be awesome and I would just cross it and face the next problem, but most times it wouldn't really work and I would just die instantly. In the end, I never learned why this happened, but oh well. If you do actually make it and hit the spring, dashing upwards will kill you, and waiting will kill you too because of the momentum. You could theoretically demo somewhere here, but I had another idea. Once I hit the spring, I would dash back and grab the wall. You might think I could have just jumped and dashed upwards, and yeah, that probably would have worked, but instead I did whatever this is for some reason. But since it did work, I'm not complaining. Flag 2 is also a troublemaker. Not only do we have a tight space here where we have to be careful, but I think dashing up to land on this cloud is impossible. So I just skipped the cloud and the dash crystal and managed to get to the next part. The rest of the level is really simple, including the crystal heart room. We now get into the last B-side, that being Core. This chapter doesn't change much. Of course, Core is always the most uninteresting chapter ever. The only truly hard room was this one. It's always this one. You guessed it, tight spaces where I just dash into spinners. Truly an original roadblock. For the first set of spinners, I had to demo even before the first column of them to make it work. The second set is pretty normal, yet I still pause buffered for some reason. The last and definitely least set just required a chill diagonal dash. You get it, a chill diagonal dash, cause you know core is hot or chill, but also chilies are hot. The rest of the level had some hiccups, but nothing we can't deal with. B-sides are finally out of our way. Now it's just C-sides and the Moonberry. The C-sides are just 3 rooms long, so we can go over them pretty swiftly. In the first room of Forsaken City, we have to drop down in the last one so that we don't die, and the second room has a cool skip. The last one is about the same as usual. In the Old-side one, since it's mostly dream blocks, there really aren't any issues. The crystal spam in the last room was certainly weird, but nothing worth mentioning. The first room in the Celestial Resort Seaside was extremely different. The cycles didn't seem to go well with the Superdash, so I was just trying to get lucky over and over again. I eventually found out that just by waiting 2 cycles before doing an updash, it works almost perfectly, and I managed to beat the room afterwards. The last room was arguably easier, since I could reach the heart pretty easily. Golden Ridge barely changes at all. The last room was slightly more complicated due to the wind, but yeah, that's it. In the Mirror Temple one, I had to look for the perfect path, and also deal with the crystal spam section at the end. Celeste devs really just said let's put some of these, didn't they? Getting the feather in the falling section was tight, and afterwards there's another tight dash, followed by another damn tight dash. Falling sections really like to have the same stupid dashes a lot. They did not get tired of it, since this level for some reason has 4 screens. Well, it has 3, but the last one gets divided in 2, which in my book makes it 4. It also had stupid cramped spinner moments. I died once after getting through that because I was stupid, but eventually I got to the final part, which just got easier with the Superdash. You probably already know what Summit Seaside means. Obviously the first 2 rooms are a joke compared to the third one, which is the real deal. And as tradition in this channel, this room is just way too long for me to explain, so just take a look at it. Yep, at the end I just started pause buffering because I really did not want to mess that up. But thankfully it is possible, and a pretty cool screen overall. Now Core Seaside has pretty much just one noticeable change, and of course it's a spam section, oh my goodness. In the end you can just wait so the lava decreases, so it really doesn't matter much. It is completely possible. There's just one more obstacle now, that being the Moonberry. If you remember from last video, the way I beat Farewell, or rather how I proved it being possible, was by showing you a task clip that did a weird momentum glitch and got to the end immediately. But by doing this, we can't actually go back to get the Moonberry. So what's the plan? Well, the plan is to do the following. Yep, once again weird stuff that I don't have a clue on how to do or explain, but at least we know it's possible to get to the Moonberry room. The part before the wind didn't change at all, since the jellyfish acts normal alongside the Superdash. So what changed? Take a wild guess. Wow, it's spam again! The thing is that it's really easy anyways, so in reality, this whole room pretty much stays the same. What does that mean for us? Well, first of all, the whole 100% journey of Celeste can be completed with the Superdash variant, which is honestly amazing, and it has a lot of fun stuff. Overall, the challenge was difficult because of cramped sections or spam sections, but it also gives for many cool skips. Second of all, I can finally finish this video! If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing, cause we're almost at 1,000 subs. And with that said, thanks for watching.